Hello?
My brother said, "You don't belong in our family." The parents said right, and so quietly I left. Some time later, while on a family vacation, I got 15 missed calls from younger brother Patrick asking for help. "You have no place in our family," he said, crossing his arms over his chest with that smug twist on the face that by then I would know all too well. He said it in such a sugary sweet tone that for 1 second, I really believed he was trying to help me out. But then Mom, who sat at the kitchen table sipping her tea, added, "She's right." My dad didn't even look up from his phone, grumbling, "Yeah, maybe it's better this way." I stood there for a moment, just looking at the three of them, trying to tell if this had all been arranged beforehand. I could practically hear the rehearsals in my brother's room. Him talking them into it, the way he always did. Convincing, charming, scheming. All my life, I'd been the one person who didn't buy his act, and maybe that's why he hated me so much. I didn't leave because it was funny, but it was so preposterous. I said, grabbing my jacket off the back of the chair, "Guess I'll save you the trouble," and I walked out. Nobody got in the way. My brother grinned, pleased with himself, and Mom returned her eyes to her tea, like she didn't care. Dad didn't even look up. I closed the door behind me and took a deep breath. The thing is, it didn't hurt as they probably wanted it to. I wasn't like my brother, who lived for their approval, always basking in their praise and playing the golden child. I had learned long ago that I wasn't their favorite. They tolerated me, sure, but love and support had always been reserved for him. And honestly, I didn't mind that either. I had my own friends, my own life, my own sense of myself. Still, it was a slight sting, not them letting me go, but how easy they made it seem. No hesitation, no second thoughts. No, wait, let's talk about this. Just silence. I spent that night with my best friend. When I told her what had happened, we laughed about it over a bottle of cheap wine, joking about how my brother probably saw himself as the king of the family now. "Honestly, it sounds like you're better off," my friend said, and she was right. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something about this whole thing wasn't just about me. The thing is, Patrick had been leading up to this for months, making those little comments to our parents about how I didn't fit in, or that I wasn't like them. It wasn't good enough for him to be the favorite. He wanted me out. 2 days later, they were packing their bags for a family vacation. I hadn't even realized they were planning it until I saw the suitcases by the front door. My brother, of course, was making a big show of it, loudly giving directions and supervising my parents as I watched from the stairs. He would not stop looking at me, expecting some kind of reaction. When I said nothing, he finally turned to me and said, "So you're just going to sit here all alone? What are you going to do without us?" I smiled, calm and unconcerned, the way I knew would annoy him the most. "I hope they take you to a hospital for the mentally ill on this trip. Maybe they'll have room for Mom and Dad." In an instant, his face went red, and the next thing I knew, he was screaming with tears running down his face. My parents comforted him immediately, looking at me as if I had just committed a crime. "You're so cruel," my mother said, shaking her head. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" I shrugged. "Because I'd rather be sane." When they left, I felt nothing but relief. The house was finally quiet and really peaceful for the first time in years. I didn't have to put up with their eternal criticism or my brother's eternal games. With a bowl of popcorn clutched to my chest, I sat on the couch watching my favorite TV shows but welcomed the silence. But peace never lasts in a family like mine, of course. It was absolute bliss for 2 days, no yelling, snide comments, or exhaustive power plays. I stayed in the house like my personal retreat, playing my favorite music, dancing in the kitchen, and catching up on all the things I couldn't enjoy when they were around. Then the calls started. The first one came at 10 a.m. I was making pancakes. My phone was on the counter, buzzing every so often. It was my brother Patrick. I simply rolled my eyes and silenced it. Whatever kind of drama he had gotten himself into, I just didn't want to hear. The second came 5 minutes later, and then the third. By the time I was finished eating, 7 calls. I stared at my ringing phone, weighing the pros and cons of blocking his number. Yet a part of me was curious. What could be so urgent that he couldn't just text? The 8th call was when I answered it, mainly to tell him to leave me alone. "What?" I asked, a thick layer of annoyance in my voice. Where he shrieked, "I have been calling you for hours, and why didn't you pick up?" "Because I don't care," I said flatly. What do you want? We're in trouble, he said, his voice shaking. I need your help. Define trouble, I said, leaning back against the counter. He hesitated, which was never a good sign. My brother never hesitated unless he was about to lie. We, got robbed, he said. I raised an eyebrow. You got robbed on your perfect little family vacation? Yes, he growled. Some guy stole all of our money. Mom and Dad are freaking out. And we're stuck here with no money. I didn't know who else to call. Now I was curious. Why not call Margaret? I asked, referring to his wife. His silence told me all I needed to know. Oh, I said, a grin spreading across my face. You didn't tell him, did you? What happened? Did the guy steal more than your money? Shut up, he hissed. This isn't funny. I laughed. Oh, it's hilarious. Let me guess. You went somewhere you shouldn't have and now you're too embarrassed to admit it. Am I close? There was silence again, and then he said, Are you going to help us or not? I thought about it for a moment. On the one hand, this was exactly the kind of mess he deserved. On the other hand, there was something deeply satisfying about watching him squirm. Let me think about it, I said. Meanwhile, perhaps you can ask one of those locals that you like to hang around with to help. I'm sure they will be more than pleased to help. Oh, wait! He started yelling at me, and before I heard the rest, I hung up. My phone, for the next couple of hours, had been ringing with his and my parents' calls and texts. Please, we need your help. Send money before the end of the day. There were all variations on this message. I had 15 missed calls and a voicemail from my mother, where she tried to guilt me by saying, I thought you were better than this. We're your family. I couldn't stop laughing. Family? I muttered to myself. Didn't you just tell me I have no place in this family? I texted a simple reply to my brother. Sorry, but I'm just a roommate. Remember? Then I turned my phone off. 2 days into the endless calls, I woke up to one text from my brother. It wasn't a wall of emojis or some kind of threat, which is what I'd been bracing myself for. It was just, we're coming home. Thanks for nothing. I gazed at it for a moment, then shrugged and went about my day. Whatever mess they had gotten themselves into, it wasn't my problem. I didn't owe them anything, especially after what they had said to me. It wasn't until later that they finally returned, and before I could see them, I could hear them, the car doors slamming shut, my mom yelling loud as ever about luggage, and my dad murmuring something under his breath. Of course, my brother made the most dramatic entrance. He stamped into the house, red-faced and furious, his wife Margaret scurrying behind him as she struggled with suitcases. Margaret nodded in that little acknowledgement of mine as she passed me down the hall, the same way she always did. Of the few people in this family that I respect, she's one of them. Maybe that's because she seems to see through my brother's nonsense, or maybe it's because deep down, she knows I'm the sane one. Once they were inside, my brother turned to me, his face a mask of rage. You're unbelievable, he snapped, jabbing a finger in my direction. We needed you, and you just ignored us. I leaned back against the wall and crossed my arms. I'm sorry, I said, though my tone made it clear that I wasn't. I didn't know roommates were supposed to cover each other's holidays. My dad glared at me. This isn't a joke, he said. We were stranded in a foreign country. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to beg for help? Humiliating, I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You mean like being told you had no place in your own family? Because I wouldn't know anything about that. My mother let out a frustrated sigh. Why must you always be so impossible? We are your family, and families assist one another. Oh, now we are family? I said, smiling. That's rich. Last week, I was nothing but a burden. Or have you forgotten? My brother ceased pacing up and down like a caged animal, then exploded. You're such a child. Do you know how much stress you've caused us? Do you even care? I stared directly at him. No, I don't. And you know why? Because you don't care about me, you never have. All you have ever done is bring me down, and now you wish me to get you out of this trouble? Sorry, I'm done. The room was silent. For once, my brother didn't have anything to say. My mom had the urge to say something, but for once, she couldn't find the words. Then Margaret, who quietly unpacked at the door, spoke up. He's right. Everybody looked at her. What? My brother snapped, his voice rising. He's right, Margaret repeated calmly but firmly. You treat him like garbage, and then you wonder why he won't help you. Maybe if you respected him a little more, he'd feel differently. The silence in the room was such that one could hear a pin drop. My brother looked as though he'd been slapped. I can't believe you're taking his side. I'm not taking sides, Margaret said. I'm just saying you can't treat people like they're nothing and then expect them to come running when you're in trouble. For the first time in years, I felt like someone had finally seen me. But of course, the moment didn't last. My dad, ever the peacemaker, intervened. Look, we've all been through a lot this week, he said. Let's just move on and try to put this behind us. Sure, I said, grabbing my bag from the couch. Let's put it behind us. In fact, let's put it all behind us, because I'm done. Done? My mom asked, frowning. I'm moving out, I said. I'm packing my things tonight. My brother rolled his eyes. Oh, please, you've said that before. This time I mean it, I said. And I'm not coming back. I went upstairs before they could say anything else, leaving them in stunned silence. That night, I packed my bags and called my grandmother, the only sane person in our family as far as I had ever known. When I told her what had happened, she didn't seem surprised. Come stay with me, she said. You don't need him. And just like that, I was free. Next morning, I didn't even say goodbye and left the house. My grandmother stayed an hour away, and I couldn't wait to get there. She lived in this cozy little cottage on the edge of a small town. Mitchellston, the kind of place where neighbors bring over pies for no reason, and everyone knows your name. When I got there, she greeted me with a warm hug and a plate of cookies, as she always did. You're better off without him, she said, patting my hand. Stay as long as you need to. I thought that was it, finally, free from my family's chaos, and I could finally breathe. But of course, it wasn't that simple. 2 days into my new home, I received a call from an unknown number. I ignored it at first, assuming it was just another scam. But when the same number dialed again, something told me to answer. Hello, I said carefully. Is this your name? A man's voice asked. It sounded official, almost too serious. Yes. Who's asking? This is Detective Perkins with the county police, he said. We're investigating a report that involves your family. My stomach dropped. What kind of report? Your brother has filed a complaint against you, he said in a neutral voice. He says that you threatened his safety before he left on vacation. I'm going to ask you a few questions. I had, for 1 second, thought he was kidding. Threats, I said, laughing out loud. You got to be kidding me. That's a lie. I understand this is quite a shock, he said, his voice measured. But we must take each complaint seriously. Can you make your way to the station tomorrow morning? I just hung up and didn't answer, my head reeling with thoughts. New low for my brother to actually file a report against me? Was he looking to have me arrested? I told my grandmother the story, to which she shook her head. That boy has no shame, she said. But don't worry, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. Let's go fix this. The next day, we went to the police station. Detective Perkins was nothing like what I had anticipated. He was young, sharp-eyed, inordinately kind. He asked me a few questions until it was painfully obvious that my brother's story simply wouldn't fly. He said you threatened to hurt him, he explained. But when we asked for details, he couldn't give us any. His story kept changing. Of course, I said. He's lying. He nodded. That's what it looks like. Frankly, it looks like a personal vendetta. We're dropping the case, but I wanted to warn you. People like this don't give up easily. You might want to keep your distance. I thanked him and left, feeling a strange mixture of relief and anger. My brother had always been manipulative, but this was the next level. When I reached my grandmother's house, she handed me a letter. This came for you while you were away, she said. It was from Margaret, my brother's wife. I opened it, confused. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. I need to talk to you. It's important. Call me. I stared at the note, my heart pounding. Why would Margaret reach out to me? What could be so important? I called him despite my better judgment. Thank God, he said when she picked up. I didn't know if you'd even read the letter. What's going on? I asked suspiciously. It's your brother, he said, his voice tense. He's hiding something. Something big. I don't know who else to turn to. What do you mean he's hiding something? I asked and she was indecisive. I don't want to say too much over the phone. Can we meet in person? I almost said no. After everything my brother had pulled, the last thing I wanted was to be drugged deeper into his mess. But something in Margaret's voice caught me. He sounded desperate. Fine, I said. But this better be good. We decided to meet at a diner off the highway the following morning. When I came in, she was already inside, looking much more anxious than I had ever seen her. She waved for me to sit, and as soon as I did, she leaned into me and spoke in a very low tone. Your brother lied to everybody, she said. About everything. Tells me something I couldn't have already fathomed. I said with a roll of my eyes. No, I mean everything, she said, her voice urgent. The robbery, it wasn't random. He planned it. I froze. What are you talking about?
Bye bye.